Pause for a moment and feel this. Something is shifting, not slowly, not someday. But now, you may not see the full picture yet, but you can sense it. A quiet rearranging, a subtle movement beneath the surface of your life. What once felt delayed now feels different, lighter, closer, almost inevitable. This is not wishful thinking. This is the law responding. The moment you changed within, the moment you dared to assume that your desire was already yours, everything began adjusting. The unseen moved first. The visible is catching up. You are not waiting anymore. You are witnessing alignment. Things are falling into place fast because you are no longer the same person who once doubted. You have stepped into the version of yourself who expects miracles as normal outcomes. And when expectation changes, reality has no choice but to follow. Something big is coming, not by chance, not by luck, but by assumption. And what you have assumed with conviction must externalize itself. There comes a moment in a person's life when the struggle quietly ends, not because the outer world has changed yet, but because something inside has. It is subtle, almost invisible. No applause, no announcement. Yet it is the most powerful turning point of all. The shift has already happened within you, and once that inner shift occurs, the outer world has no choice but to rearrange itself accordingly. You may still see the same room, the same job, the same bank account, the same circumstances. But you are not the same observer anymore. And that is everything. For it is not the outer picture that determines your future. It is the state of consciousness from which you view it. The moment you stopped begging, stopped fearing, stopped wondering how, and instead began assuming that what you desire is already yours, you moved into a new state. That state is the creative power. That state is the cause. And the world you see is only its delayed effect. Understand this deeply. Reality is not happening to you. It is happening through you. Every event, every interaction, every opportunity reflects the concept you hold of yourself. When you believed you were waiting, life mirrored delay. When you felt uncertain, circumstances echoed confusion. But now something is different. You feel a quiet confidence. You are no longer desperate for proof. You are no longer chasing signs. There is a steadiness in you, a calm knowing that what you have claimed inwardly must appear outwardly. This is the true beginning of acceleration. The outer world is like an echo. It repeats what you have already declared in consciousness. When you persist in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you impress the deeper mind. And once impressed, it begins to project a new reality. You may not see the movement immediately, but unseen rearrangements are taking place. Conversations are being orchestrated. Doors are being prepared. People are being moved into position without any conscious awareness of why they feel compelled to act. You do not have to force anything. Force belongs to the state of doubt. When you know, you do not push. You do not strain. You simply remain faithful to the inner assumption. The seed does not dig itself up to check its progress. It rests in certainty. And because it rests, it grows. The reason things begin falling into place quickly after the inner shift is because resistance dissolves. Resistance is nothing more than the contradiction between what you want and what you believe. When belief aligns with desire, there is no friction. And where there is no friction, movement becomes swift. Think about it. When you truly believe something is yours, your posture changes. Your tone changes. Your reactions change. You interpret events differently. What once looked like rejection now appears as redirection. What once felt like delay now feels like preparation. The same world, but a different state of consciousness, produces a completely different experience. The shift within you is not fragile. It is powerful, but it must be protected. Do not return to the old conversations in your mind. Do not revisit the old story of struggle. The past only survives if you continue to animate it with attention. Withdraw your attention from what was and give it fully to what is assumed to be true now. You are not becoming someone new. You are occupying a new state. And states once occupied externalize themselves. The key is persistence, not effort, not strain. Persistence in feeling, persistence in identity, persistence in knowing. If doubt appears, do not fight it. Simply return to the end. Return to the version of yourself who already has what you desire. How does that version think? How does that version feel about the future? Stable, relaxed, certain. That certainty is the creative power in action. The shift has already happened. You would not even be sensing momentum if it had not. The very feeling that something is aligning is evidence that you are no longer in the old state. Trust that feeling. Nourish it. Live from it. Soon, what feels internal will become visible. And when it does, it will seem almost natural, as though it was always meant to unfold this way. But you will know the truth. You will know it began the moment you changed within, because the inner man is the cause. And once the cause changes, the effect must follow. The greatest mistake most people make is living toward their desire instead of from it. They are always reaching, always hoping, always moving in the direction of something that feels distant. But desire was never meant to be chased. It was meant to be assumed. The moment you understand this, everything changes. You stop striving and start embodying. You stop asking when and begin declaring now. To live from the end means you no longer identify as the one who is waiting. You identify as the one who has already received. This is not pretending. It is selecting a state of consciousness. Every possible version of you already exists as a state. The version who is successful, the version who is loved, the version who is financially free, the version who is secure and confident. When you live from the end, you move into that state internally and dwell there as though it were fact. Ask yourself, if it were already done, how would I feel? Not how would I act outwardly for show, but how would I feel inwardly, in private, when no one is watching? There would be relief, calm, gratitude, a quiet stability. There would be no urgency, no desperation. The fulfilled version of you does not chase confirmation. That version expects everything to align naturally. When you occupy that inner position, something remarkable happens. Time begins to collapse. The future stops feeling far away. Why? Because psychologically and spiritually, you have already arrived. The outer world is simply catching up to your new assumption. And the outer world must catch up, because it can only reflect the state you persist in. Living towards something keeps it in the future. Living from it brings it into the present. When you say, I am becoming successful, you remain in transition. But when you say, I am successful, and you accept that as your identity, your perception shifts. You begin to notice opportunities you previously ignored. You respond to situations differently. You speak with more assurance. You think from abundance rather than lack. This is not about forcing positive thoughts. It is about shifting identity. Identity determines perception, and perception determines experience. If you still see yourself as someone trying to achieve, you will continue to experience striving. But if you see yourself as someone who already embodies the result, life organizes itself to confirm that self-image. The key is naturalness. The end must feel normal to you, not exaggerated, not dramatic. Natural. If your desire feels unbelievable, gently soften it into something believable. Instead of jumping from nothing is working to everything is perfect, move into things are improving rapidly. Allow the feeling to grow until the end state feels like the most logical reality. Do not look at current circumstances for validation. They are only shadows of former assumptions. If you judge your progress by what you see today, you will anchor yourself to yesterday's thinking. Instead, remain loyal to the unseen reality. The unseen is the cause. The seen is the effect. Living from the end also means you stop reacting emotionally to temporary appearances. If something goes differently than expected, you do not panic. The fulfilled version of you would not panic. That version knows everything is working out in its favor. So you adopt that reaction now. You think from completion, not from confusion. Notice how powerful this is. You are no longer hoping for change. You are embodying change. You are not asking for permission. You are claiming identity. And identity is creative. Whatever you consistently identify with must express itself in your world. It may feel subtle at first, but persist. Each time your mind drifts back to, I don't have it yet, gently return to, it is already done. Not as a mantra to convince yourself, but as a truth you choose to accept. Over time, that acceptance becomes dominant. And when it becomes dominant, the outer world shifts with surprising speed. The one who lives from the end moves differently, speaks differently, decides differently. There is confidence without arrogance, patience without anxiety, expectation without force. That is the state that produces rapid alignment. You do not get what you want. You get what you are conscious of being. So be it now. Occupy the state fully. Walk as though it is settled. Think as though it is guaranteed. Feel as though it is natural. And watch how quickly reality reshapes itself to mirror the version of you who no longer waits, because the end has already been accepted within. There is a movement taking place in your life that you cannot fully see, yet it is more real than anything visible. The moment you assumed the feeling of your wish fulfilled, a sequence began. Not random, not accidental, a precise unfolding. This sequence is the bridge of incidents, the natural chain of events that leads you from where you appear to be to where you have already accepted yourself to be. Most people expect transformation to happen in one dramatic moment. They wait for fireworks, for sudden announcements, for obvious miracles. But creation rarely announces itself loudly in the beginning. It moves quietly, logically, almost ordinarily. And that is why many miss it. They are looking for magic, while magic is disguising itself as normal events, an unexpected conversation, a delayed plan, a sudden idea, a chance meeting, a door that closes unexpectedly. These are not interruptions, they are steps. Every incident, pleasant or unpleasant, becomes part of the bridge once you have impressed the new state upon yourself. Understand this clearly. Once the end is accepted internally, the middle takes care of itself. You do not need to design the path. In fact, trying to control the path often slows it down. The deeper intelligence that responds to your assumption arranges details far beyond what your conscious mind could ever calculate. It knows who must move. It knows what must shift. It knows the timing. Your only responsibility is loyalty to the end. There will be moments when the bridge looks confusing. Something may happen that seems unrelated to your desire. Something may appear to contradict it. But do not judge too quickly. The bridge often includes events that appear inconvenient at first. A job rejection may redirect you to a better opportunity. A delay may position you perfectly for a greater outcome. A conversation you didn't plan may open a door you didn't know existed. If you react in fear, you step out of the state. But if you remain calm and remind yourself, this too is leading me forward, you stay aligned with the unseen movement. The bridge of incidents does not require your strain. It requires your trust. When you plant a seed, you do not follow it underground to ensure it grows. You allow the unseen process to unfold. In the same way, once the assumption is planted in consciousness, unseen rearrangements begin. People may feel inspired to call you. Decisions may be made in rooms you are not present in. Opportunities may be created without your awareness. All of it responding to the state you have chosen. The speed of the bridge depends on your stability. If you constantly dig up your assumption with doubt, you interrupt momentum. But if you remain steady, even when nothing seems to be happening, movement accelerates. It is important to recognize that the bridge is not separate from you. It is flowing through you as impulses, ideas, and intuitive nudges. You may suddenly feel inspired to go somewhere, to send a message, to try something new. Follow those gentle prompts without overthinking them. They are part of the unfolding. They feel natural because they arise from the state you are occupying. The bridge never feels forced. It feels ordinary. You will not feel like you are being dragged toward destiny. You will feel like you are simply living your life. And yet everything subtly aligns. And then one day, you will look back and realize how perfectly it all connected. The delays made sense. The detours were necessary. The unexpected moments were essential. What seemed scattered was actually precise. This understanding brings peace. You stop fighting appearances. You stop demanding immediate proof. You begin to observe life with quiet confidence. You know something is moving, even when you cannot see the full design. That knowing is power. The bridge of incidents is unfolding now, not tomorrow, not someday. Every hour contains movement. Every day contains alignment. Even when nothing appears to change on the surface, something is shifting beneath it. Remain faithful to your unseen reality. Continue thinking from the end. Continue feeling it as done. Allow the path to reveal itself step by step. You do not need to know how. You do not need to know when. You only need to remain aligned with who you have decided to be. Because once the state is chosen, the bridge must appear, and it is already carrying you forward. There is only one thing that ever delays fulfillment: the persistence of the old story. Not circumstances, not other people, not timing. The story you continue to tell yourself about who you are and what has happened to you is the only force that keeps repeating the past. If you want rapid alignment, if you want things to fall into place faster than ever before, you must drop the old story completely. The old story sounds familiar. It never works out for me. I've tried before. Things take a long time. People always disappoint me. Money is hard to keep. These are not harmless thoughts. They are identities. And identity is creative. As long as you identify with the version of yourself who struggled, waited, or failed, life must reflect that version back to you. You cannot step into a new reality while emotionally rehearsing the old one. Many attempt to create change while secretly staying loyal to past disappointments. They speak of new desires, but internally they relive old setbacks. They say they believe, yet they constantly revisit memories that contradict their wish. This divided state produces slow results, not because the law is weak, but because the assumption is inconsistent. To drop the old story means you no longer introduce yourself internally as the person who suffered that experience. You are not denying that it happened. You are refusing to let it define your present identity. The past has no power except the power you give it through remembrance with emotion. If you replay an old failure with intensity, you reactivate it in consciousness. And what is active in consciousness seeks expression again. But if you withdraw your attention, if you stop emotionally charging the memory, it begins to fade. Like a fire without fuel, it dies. This is why complete release is necessary. Partial release keeps the pattern alive. You cannot say, "I am successful now," while secretly identifying as someone who never had support. You cannot claim abundance while frequently repeating how difficult money used to be. You cannot expect harmony while holding onto stories of betrayal. Choose your identity deliberately. Ask yourself, who am I now? Not who was I, not what did I experience. Who am I now? The moment you choose a new self concept, you must protect it. The mind will try to drift back to familiarity. It prefers repetition. But repetition is exactly what must change. Each time the old narrative attempts to surface, gently but firmly replace it. Not with force, not with struggle, but with decision. I am no longer that version of myself. Feel what that means. The old version reacted differently, thought differently, expected differently. But you are not obligated to continue that pattern. You are free to select a new state at any moment. When you truly drop the old story, speed increases. Why? Because there is no longer contradiction. There is no longer inner debate. You are not split between past and future. You are unified in your present assumption. And unity is powerful. Notice how light you feel when you stop rehearsing past problems. Notice how calm you become when you stop identifying with previous limitations. That lightness is alignment. That calm is creative authority. You do not need to explain your new identity to anyone. You do not need external validation. The transformation is internal first, and once internal, it will project outward automatically. Even if others still see you through the lens of your past, do not accept their version. People only reflect the state you consistently occupy. When you remain faithful to the new story, they eventually adjust. The world does not control your identity. You do. If you continue telling the story of delay, life will echo delay. If you continue telling the story of struggle, life will echo struggle. But if you begin telling, and more importantly, feeling, the story of ease, progress, and favor, life will reorganize itself to confirm it. Dropping the old story is not about pretending nothing happened. It is about recognizing that you are not bound to replay it. You are not your past reactions. You are not your past outcomes. You are the one who selects the state now. And when you fully release the old identity, when you stop revisiting it, defending it, or explaining it, something extraordinary occurs. Momentum builds. Movement accelerates. What once felt blocked begins to flow, because there is no longer anything in you contradicting the new assumption. Drop it completely. Do not keep souvenirs from a version of yourself you no longer choose to be. Step fully into the new identity and watch how quickly reality confirms the story you have decided to live. There comes a point in every assumption where movement stops feeling gradual and begins feeling inevitable. Up until that moment, it may seem quiet, subtle, almost invisible. But beneath the surface, pressure has been building. Alignment has been forming. Circumstances have been rearranging themselves to match your accepted state. And then, suddenly, everything changes. This is the nature of manifestation. It often appears in leaps. Water heats slowly, degree by degree, with no visible transformation. Yet at a certain point, it boils. The shift appears sudden, but it was prepared by consistent, unseen change. In the same way, your outer world may seem unchanged for a while. But if you have remained faithful to the end, if you have persisted in your assumption without wavering back into the old story, you are building toward a threshold. And once that threshold is crossed, the visible shift feels dramatic. You must expect this, not with anxious anticipation, not with restless waiting, but with calm certainty. The fulfilled version of you is not surprised by success. That version expects alignment as a natural consequence of belief. If you expect struggle, you brace for difficulty. If you expect delay, you prepare for waiting. But if you expect a sudden breakthrough, your entire nervous system relaxes into inevitability. You walk differently. You speak differently. You think differently. You are no longer asking if it will happen. You are simply aware that it is unfolding. Expectation is creative. Many unknowingly expect things to go wrong. They look for confirmation of problems. They rehearse worst-case scenarios. And life obliges. But when you begin expecting favorable outcomes, when you assume that things are working behind the scenes in your favor, your perception shifts. You start noticing subtle evidence of progress. You interpret events optimistically. You respond with composure rather than fear. This stability is what accelerates the shift. The sudden breakthrough does not come because you force it. It comes because you have normalized the end internally. When the desired state feels natural to you, when it no longer feels like fantasy, but like fact, the outer world has no resistance left to mirror. The reflection becomes clear and immediate. There may be a day when you receive the message you've been waiting for. A day when an opportunity appears unexpectedly. A day when circumstances align in a way that seems too perfect to be coincidence. In that moment, do not react with shock. Do not say, "I can't believe this is happening." Instead, say, "Of course," because it was always unfolding. The sudden shift is only sudden to the eyes. It was gradual in consciousness. Every time you return to the end, every time you refuse to entertain doubt, every time you identified as the one who already had it, You were moving closer to visible confirmation. And here is something important. The shift often feels effortless when it happens. There is no dramatic struggle, no overwhelming chaos. It slides into place naturally. You may even think, that was easier than I imagined. That ease is a sign that you were aligned. Do not fear the speed of your own manifestation. Sometimes when things begin moving quickly, people panic. They question whether it is real. They search for hidden problems. But remember, you asked for change. You assumed change. Now allow it. The bigger the inner conviction, the faster the outer rearrangement. Stay steady even as momentum builds. Remain grounded in gratitude and calm assurance. The fulfilled state is not frantic. It is peaceful. It trusts the unfolding without needing to control it. And understand this, the sudden shift may not only bring what you asked for, it may bring more. Because when you shift identity, you do not just attract one outcome. You alter the entire pattern of your life. New opportunities align. New relationships form. New pathways open that you had not even considered. This is why something big feels close. It is not just one event approaching. It is a new chapter stabilizing itself. Continue expecting good news. Continue assuming progress. Continue walking as though the breakthrough has already been scheduled. Because it has. You do not need to know the exact hour. You only need to remain aligned with certainty. The shift is not a possibility. It is a consequence. And when it arrives, it will feel both surprising and completely natural, as though life simply stepped into the script you wrote within. Expect it. Stay ready and allow the sudden shift to reveal what was always forming behind the scenes. Look back at where you were, uncertain, questioning, maybe even discouraged. And now look at you, calmer, more assured, less desperate, more certain. That inner certainty is the signal. The outer world does not lead, it follows. Every time you chose faith over fear, every time you returned to the feeling of it being done, every time you refused to accept appearances as final, you accelerated the unfolding. The pieces are not randomly assembling. They are responding to you. Stay in the end. Refuse to go back to the old story. Expect the sudden breakthrough. Because when the inner man remains faithful, the outer world must conform quickly and completely. What is coming will not surprise your deeper self. It will feel natural. It will feel earned. It will feel inevitable. Because it was decided the moment you believed. Thank you for being here. Thank you for choosing faith over fear. Thank you for daring to assume greater things for your life. If this message resonated with you, carry it with you today. Return to it whenever doubt tries to whisper. Remember, the power is not outside of you. It never was. Stay aligned. Stay certain. And most of all, stay in the knowing that something beautiful is already unfolding. Things are falling into place fast. And the best is not ahead of you. It is already on its way.